Alright, we got some hoses and fittings. We got a pressure gauge because this press doesn't have one. And today we're going to go ahead and get all the hoses changed. See if we can find out where our pressure dropped or why we're not developing enough pressure to press anything. I know it used to work alright because this plate that they have on the table here is definitely bent and broken. It's concave, so it used to make pressure, but it doesn't anymore. Again, if you recall, the pressure line is actually going in the discharge side of the valve, so I'm hoping that it's just maybe there's one way, the seals are only made for one way in here and it's just blowing by. It could be the pump is the wrong kind of pump, might be a vane pump, it might be shot. The other thing that could be is it might be leaking by the piston inside the cylinder. So what we're going to do is run the cylinder all the way down, so that way when I release the hose that would push the cylinder back up, I don't have 2 gallons of oil sitting above it to run out on the floor. Then, to make sure that the piston is good, the piston seals, we're going to unhook that line for the bottom side of the cylinder, put a longer hose on it down here to my bucket for oil, and then we're going to put pressure on it and see if we get oil. So if oil comes out that hose with pressure on the top side, then that's going to mean that the piston seals are bad, and that's hopefully an easy fix. It doesn't look like this cylinder is welded, so hopefully the head would just thread out and that could be repaired. After that, we'll put a hose from the valves down to the bucket, pump all the oil out of the reservoir so the system's empty, and then be able to take all the hoses out and replace them. Alright, let's get started. Again, this valve works backwards. The detent should be for taking it up, but it's got a detent for going down. That's just because the oil's going in the wrong side of the cylinder. I'm starting to wonder if it's this pump, because I don't see a relief vent here on this system anywhere unless there's one built into the valve. But I would have expected the pump and perhaps the motor to stall when that hit the end of the stroke. So that's really not a good sign. This fitting here, this is a standard plumbing fitting. You should never ever use plumbing fittings in a hydraulic system. They're not made for the high pressure. This fitting can rupture and spray oil all over the place, or worse, it can just develop a crack and it's shooting high pressure oil out, and you can get an oil injection injury from that. It'll just shoot oil straight into your skin. Those are supposed to be really nasty injuries. They're hard to heal, hard to deal with. Not something you want to do. Well, that union doesn't seem like it's gonna come apart. We're just gonna end up kinking the hose up here. Hope it's good enough to, we can get enough turns to get this thing out. Alright, these oil mats are already paying off. There's oil coming out of that cylinder. We're just going to wait a few minutes to let this drain. While we're waiting for that to drain, we can pick this thread seal off of here without having to worry about it contaminating anything in the system. You're supposed to use thread seal that kind of put on with the brush, because Teflon tape is supposed to get in and actually contaminate your system. I've never had a problem using it, and that's what I'm going to use today because that's all I have around here right now. I always just figured don't put so much tape on that it's sticking off the back of your fitting. Seems like our dripping is done. I don't hear anymore. That is definitely a plumbing fitting. Yeah, that's the wrong thing to be using on these. Don't do that. I've got shorter hoses to go from the cylinder to the valve. This long one is going to be my new pressure line. But for now, we're going to use it to actually do our leak check. Let me get a proper fitting over here. I always get these swivel fittings. It just makes things so much easier to hook up. Not terribly worried about having this perfect right now. We should be able to go down with this, and if we get any oil here, we know the piston's leaking. Definitely don't want to run the valve the wrong way. I am going to throw a hose. I'll throw this old hose back on the valve just to capture any oil. May I have some chance of redirecting it somewhere sane instead of just making an oil fountain. That wouldn't be very nice. Although I don't anticipate moving this the wrong way. I know I gotta go backwards. So let's see what happens. That's good news. The cylinder is good. Alright. So, you know, since this valve is hooked backwards and I can use the detent, I'm just gonna use that discharge line to drain my oil now. Wow, there's a lot of junk in there. Check this out. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. See that piece of junk right back in there? I'm gonna go get some picks, see if I can clean that out. Alright, I thought maybe some fine tip tweezers might be the way to go here. Oh yeah, look at that. That's some nice contamination. That would not be good to have in there. Now we can drop our fitting in. Alright, so this is something to notice when you're putting these together. You have to plan for this. I'm not sure if I did. When you have two ports, they always put these ports real close together in hydraulic systems. So if you're using a right angle fitting like this, you can't get two of them next to each other because they won't be able to pass. You know, if you get this other fitting in here, they collide. So you often end up getting, I like using these 45-degree fittings for that sometimes. You can toss one in here, be at a bit of an angle. They also have straight ones, but again, that's where these swivel fittings are just invaluable because they just make it so much easier to hook these things up. In this case, these hoses are just going to go straight up, so it's fine. Just kind of illustrating for you here, one of the problems you can run into when you're putting together a hydraulic system. You can really give yourself a big headache if you do that. And you order a bunch of fittings, you wait a few days to get them, and you find out it ain't gonna work. Get our discharge line put on here. Again, these fittings are nice. If I didn't have that swivel fitting, then I'm sitting here spinning this hose around a whole bunch of times. That's really awkward. It's a pain. You can mess up your hose. None of it's good. Alright, let's empty the reservoir. Wrong way. I wasn't thinking. Whoa, we got good flow. There's no question this pump makes enough volume. I'm going to let this one drip out before I take it off so I don't make too much of a mess here. While that hose is dripping out, we're going to take this other one off. I've had the valve open for a little while, hopefully drain this hose out. This is the thing I don't like, using the proper pipe dope for these systems. It's just a mess when you take them apart. The tape stays on there. Some of it falls in the threads, or stays in the threads. If it drops down in the oil, you can pick it out real easy with the tweezers, like I did that piece of shmoo out of here. But this stuff, it sticks to everything. It goes everywhere. It's hard to see. I just don't like it. So, I don't know. I'm not going to follow the rules on hydraulics. I will use Teflon tape. Once you break that loose, more of that pipe dope, the little particles of it just get everywhere. I got straight fittings here for the valve. I don't have any tape. I'll be right back. I don't have any tape. Alright, we're back to the bench here to wrap this fitting. You just follow the rules on the tape. Give it 3 wraps. That first one's always a little hard to get. But don't go past the end of the fitting. Keep at least 1 bare thread on there. Okay, there's 2 wraps. and 3. If you go just a little bit more, that's not a big deal, and it just tears off. So these are my straight fittings for those hoses to the cylinder. So those will be real easy to hook up. They won't interfere with each other. Alright, so you see that end is completely clean. There is no tape on it, no tape past the end, no little strands or anything. So I don't think that's going to actually contaminate a hydraulic system that way. The reason I wanted to tape these fittings up is they're going to be able to go in here permanent now. And they came with these nice plastic caps on them. So I really like that. That's going to keep the system sealed up while I'm taking out that top hose. I'm not going to get any more dirt in here or anything like that. I'm also not going to hook these up right away. I'm going to put these hoses on because I need to be able to get in here on the inlet side, the pressure side, and reroute hoses and stuff. It's just going to be a lot easier if I don't have a hose in my way here. Might need one more turn on it, but I'm not sure. It's pretty tight. I'm gonna leave it again because I have this swivel fitting. If I get to where I can pressure test and it leaks a little bit, I can just undo that swivel fitting, move the hose out of the way, get another turn on it, and put it back together. Use these swivel fittings everywhere you can. They're well worth your time. I know that hose is going to be coming out of here, so it just needs to loop up. So I actually want this pointing more or less up, like that. I can fine tune the fit later. Okay, that one should probably have a cap on it. Really? I always save the dust caps out of my fittings when I put new ones on. Just for this kind of thing, you're always going to need them. And like these elbow fittings, they only come with these little covers here for the exposed thread, so it doesn't get messed up in shipping. They don't have these nice little thread cap things. Alright, so we got all this good to go now. We know the front one goes to the top. Now we can start taking apart the return and the pressure lines. I think I'm just going to cut this hose. We don't care about it anyway. We'll try the hacksaw with a metal cutting bit. Oh, I did a good job of breaking the blade. Yeah, I'm just not going to have much luck with that. I think I see why people grind these things. I'll try side cutters here. Alright, so in retrospect, my choice of methods is probably pretty poor. It most likely would have been easier to get the valve body off of the machine rather than cutting that hose. It sure was time consuming and difficult. Sometimes you just got to pick the right method. That definitely was not. I thought about the angle grinder while I was doing that, but this is a low ceiling down here. This is my basement, and I didn't really want to smoke it up in here, which that would be certain to do. Alright, oil absorbent mat should save me some cleaning later. Nice! That return line fitting is busted clean off. This fitting looks like it's that cheap Chinese brass with a lot of tin. That's probably why it broke off. I couldn't even touch it with the pipe wrench. So I'm hoping these lock pliers will give me some bite. It's not feeling like it is. Let's try a different shape. A little tighter. Not having any luck. Alright. So I'm just going to try to tap this over with a drift, deform it. Maybe I can get it pulled out of there with the pliers. Maybe I can turn it now. So I got a place with some purchase. Not looking good. This is why you should use the proper fittings for things. You really screw the next guy up if you don't use the right stuff. I don't care that this is a return line. They should have used a proper hydraulic fitting. I barely had any force on that before it came apart. Looks like I'm gonna have to drill this thing. Only real choice I got now. I'm gonna see if I have any good left-hand drills that size. Alright, my left-hand drill selection is rather small, both in diameter and selection, so I don't have one that's going to work on this. A lot of times if the fitting's big enough, you can just get a hacksaw blade in here, have it so it cuts on the pull stroke, and you can split that fitting. It'll come out, but this one's too big for a hacksaw, so we're going to try to get the jigsaw in there again. I'm hoping I can cut towards the top side of the fitting. That way, because I'm going to get into the threads on that bung just a little bit. So if I can cut to the top, then if there's going to be any leaking, it'll be it'll fall back into the fitting. This is probably a lousy camera angle. We'll give her a go here. I probably don't want to do any more than that. kind of hosed myself, knocking the rest of the sides off. I hate to do this, but I think I'm gonna cut down. That's a pretty good slot there. Oh yeah. There we go. You can, a lot of times you got stuck bolts or pipe or something. You can get a bite with your chisel like that and turn it. Just barely cut the crown of those threads. It's still gonna seal down there. Got into a bit up here, but I think the thread seal tape will take care of it just fine. We got the proper size fitting. It is a hydraulic fitting. I got my dust cap on here. So don't use barbecue fittings on your hydraulics, man. It's just an awful thing to do. You hose up the next guy. Just use the right fittings. They're not that expensive. If you go to a local hydraulic supply house, they're going to be. Those guys are supporting industry. They got to have a lot of fittings on hand. That's just how it is. You go online, you can get fittings real cheap. I use a surplus house. It's out of Nebraska that has them. I'll show you how to open these tank bones the easy way. That wrench is too big. Alright, get it hooked in there. Oh, I'm hitting on the hose and messing with the camera. Nice. There we go. The other thing you can do, you can stand the wrench up and catch those ears. And then you can just put a bar, like a breaker bar or something, through the eye end of the wrench. That'll get you turning it. You can also use channel lock pliers in here. This is a vice grip, but it gives you the same idea. To get the right angle, you can just hook that back jaw on there, and you can just turn it 90% of the time. So this looks like we got one swivel fitting right here. And those are both the same size. Crescent wrench, you've always got two of the same size wrench. Excellent, thank you for using a swivel fitting there. If only you'd have made this side the return line, whoever did this, things would have been better. Surprised we're not getting any drip. Oh wow. Wow. You see that chunks of stuff in there? That's rust. And dirt. That don't make no sense. So I'm betting the pump is just completely trashed. Things look good inside the valve. It looks clean. Got this nice 45 fitting. That'll fit in here this way. So I can start running the hose over here where it needs to go without actually running into the motor. I'm hoping this pump's not junk, but we just won't really know until we hook it up and get that pressure gauge in play. So we're just gonna put things together, assuming the pump is good right now. Okay, so here's the idea for up here, is that we have this elbow and a T. We got the long L and the pressure gauge where we'll be able to see it. It's going to be back in the back. Oh, would it fit in the front? It might. Yeah, that'll fit in front of the hose. That'll be even better. The only thing I have questioned is a little bit of a clearance here. This is hitting here right now, but I don't have the bottom T or the bottom elbow threaded in at all yet. So once that's done, I think everything's gonna fit, but we'll have to see. And it looks like I'll have to take out my hose fittings because I won't be able to tighten this elbow on here. Yeah, I will, because I was smart enough to use a swivel fitting on the bottom, so I'll be able to set that in there and tighten it down. There, vertical. That looks good. Alright, now we get our gauge fitting in here with our elbows. And we've got just enough clearance back here. It's not hitting at all. That's excellent. Alright, and these fittings can stay put. Let's see, is that gonna... Alright, we gotta see if that's gonna interfere with the gauge. Let's see what we get. Yeah, that does. But this is the top hose. Yeah, that really obstructs the gauge. So here's what I was thinking when I originally did this, was to put the gauge back there. Okay. The hoses go up like that, both of them, so they're not in the way. You're looking at it right where I would. And our pressure line can come in right here. This hose is intentionally a bit long. So I wasn't sure if I was going to have to replace that pump and if it would change the mounting or anything. But generally, when you're buying your hydraulic pressure hoses, you want them the right length. Having them too long with loops and stuff, it gets hard to manage, especially on a piece of equipment. And then they're out sticking out in the way, they're going to get hung up on stuff and tore up. You just don't want that. So generally get the right length. This I'll be able to get some zip ties and tie it up real good where it's out of the way. And I screwed up because something I want to do is keep it close to the frame on this. So I wanted to go through here, and then I was going to zip tie it to this brace here. So I've got to take this apart and reroute it. Yeah, so I wasn't sure how long this needed to be. 2 feet wasn't going to be long enough. They didn't have a 2.5 foot hose, so I bought a 3 foot long hose. So here you can see where it gets to be kind of a pain when your hose is too long. Use that fitting to turn this around where it'll stay out of the way. And when we tighten this down, that hose will stay routed over there instead of sticking out here somewhere. When you're buying your fittings, make sure you always get extra fittings. I even bought another 90 we could put here to go it would be close, but it would go straight down here. You don't know what you're going to need, especially when you're mail ordering. You don't want to not have the right fittings and have to wait a couple extra days because you didn't order right. And you might need something else anyway. Get some extra 45s, extra 90s. I mean, get the 45s even if you don't need them. Just get one or two. But they can really save you some trouble. Like if we decided that gauge had to be out here in the center, we could have put a 45 on here, and that hose would have went that way, and we'd still be able to see the gauge. Alright, we got all new hoses, new fittings, mainly because we didn't trust the old fittings, and a lot of them were plumbing fittings, which is no good. We can try this thing out and see what we get. Got to put some oil in it first. This oil looks real good and pretty clean, so I'm just going to pour the same oil back in. And again, there's a filter down there, so I'm not too awful worried about it. Alright, that's good enough for testing. We got to pump it all out again to test to fix the suction line anyway. You've got a front row seat here to see what's going on. So let's see what happens here. Alright, that's no good. PSI. Okay, the pump is junk. So that's the next thing. Get that pump off of there and see if I can get another one put together, set on here, or if we can, I don't know if I want to tear it down to repair it or not.